I hope everyone's listening. I have an announcement to make.
Okay, I'm listening.
Good evening, all.
Oh boy.
A quick announcement. The straw has broken the Space Marine's back.
Wow.
I hadn't heard from my
possible?
Games Workshop rep in 3 weeks. He blamed it on my cell phone. I've had the same number for 30 years.
Wow.
He called the store the second week I called
30
back
years.
immediately. This is the one I'm just reading right now.
Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry, continue. Sorry.
Immediately within 2 minutes and left a voicemail. All I cared about was my Christmas box sets. We ordered a little over 12,000 in 40K armies. No return calls, no email. He called me 2 days before they were scheduled to release. One of those days being Thanksgiving, to let me know we weren't getting any of our order.
Oof.
If I wanted, I could order them online at a different discount. They wouldn't arrive in time for their scheduled release, and he didn't know when they might possibly ship. He did blame me for the error. I know this not to be true. He knows. He knows. The day he claims he received my submission, I was in sunny Florida on vacation. After reviewing our sales and space dedicated to the product, we have made the decision to drop all Games Workshop products. Mm-hmm. It's been a nightmare for years. Mm. Some people are getting their rocks off.
Oh yeah, there's some viewers that are or whatever. Really
Thursday, December 12th is our 12 days of Christmas sale. If you want, so they just talk about how they're going to liquidate their product, and So this was actually was called to our attention from one of our the people that watched our channel. Shout out! Thank you for sharing that. Lovely morsel.
Yes.
I'm not going to name names. I don't think that's fair.
We need,
stay anonymous.
We've been asking for content. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So a store puts that out there, and I think what we wanted to do is just kind of add context from a shop that deals with Games Workshop, has for a decade. Before that, Jay and I both worked for the company. Mm-hmm. We have, I'd say, a pretty good sense.
We love Games Workshop. We love them.
Oh my God!
If I had my badge and shirt, I would put up.
The force of shill is strong with you today.
I have something to grab.
You're gonna show pretty hard, aren't you?
I wanted a Donald Trump hug Games Workshop flag right now.
No. Okay, we have to be fair. We have to be objective here, Jason. Okay, can you be objective? People come here for journalism. Okay.
No, there's no way. Yeah.
What we want to do is we just want to talk about how our experience may or may not be the same or different as this gentleman's. We don't want to discount how they're feeling, but this is something that is not as common as you might think, and when they happen for a reason, and we'll kind of get to that. So, what's your first sort of reaction when you hear something like that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, for one, I guess depends on how long the store. I'll give them a tiny modicum of doubt or whatever, a benefit of the doubt, where you can say, maybe if they have been dealing with the Games Workshop maybe for over we've only been dealing with them for 10 years from a business to business relationship.
Yes.
And during that time, it's been a perfect call. It's been perfect.
Well, perfect is strong, but it's been
very good.
Grading against other companies.
Yeah.
You want to say pretty perfect, right?
Yeah, generally.
And why is that? What's good about that relationship specifically?
If you go and watch our opening hobby store series, we cover some of this. It's to do with I'll say one thing that I'll add to after, but I have a sales rep that I deal with every week, that I have someone to talk to and raise my concerns, fix my problems. I do have tracking. There's a good product tracking. The billing is generally fair and on time. So any of these boring logistical things usually work out quite well. Because it was easy for us. There's probably something in this anecdote that is maybe missing, is we don't get to understand how much of the product this person carries. But generally, if you do carry all the ranges, not all the ranges, but the core ones that they want you to, which is 40K, just like Mara and their paint line, and you bring in the releases, you're entitled to free shipping. We get charges in Canadian dollars. The price of money doesn't fluctuate with currency exchange, which is massive. We get product support, so they send us some things to offset out of date books and things. We get some free stuff. It's just kind of to compensate. So a lot of these features don't exist with virtually anything else we carry. So you don't get any of that. And the margins stay the same throughout the time. So if you're a Magic store or if you do any cards at all, like we do Pokemon, I'll order a box of Pokemon this week. Let's say it's the new release, and it's like $135 Canadian or whatever for a box. And then if the box, like Surging Sparks did, became super hot and popular, if I go to restock it, the company would be like, it's going to be $170 now because it's really hot. And you're like, what?
What? Yeah.
So, and if I want to keep selling at market or at the whatever the price that everyone's paying or selling it for, then now my margin is gone.
Correct.
So I usually just don't. Things like that.
So I'm hearing free shipping.
Yep.
Healthy margin.
Yep.
And let's be honest, it's a product
customer
people
service.
want.
Yep.
You get to put something on your shelf that people instantly want, right? Like it's something that has a great, strong brand. People call them pillar products, right? It's a pillar product you can build a business around.
Yeah. So now my first part of my preamble was like, I don't know how long this person's been in business and dealing with the Games Workshop. I don't know. I can't give the honest opinion on what maybe it was like dealing with them from 2000 until 2015 or whatever.
Right.
In Canada or the US, I have no idea. Things have changed, technology has changed, the company's changed. But generally speaking,
well, he in his said it was a nightmare for 12 years. So he's mostly been with them the same time as us.
That's true.
More or less, right?
That's true.
Just to add some context too, because I think this is important as well. I did a little bit of a little pseudo journalism or whatever. I went and kind of investigated their shop, just like Facebook page, website, that sort of thing. And I think the important thing to add here is that this person's business is largely a card store. So they're operating a card shop. 95+% of their store is dedicated to selling cards, playing cards. And so
TCGs,
it's Warhammer was, I can't speak to how big of a sales product it was for him, for how much money he was making off of it, but it in terms of effort and how much space they're dedicating to it, it does not seem like a huge thing.
Right. Yeah.
So I get this sketchy vibe a little bit where I want to say and just based on the size of their Christmas box order, it seems like maybe they had almost a bit of an opportunist account where they stocked the bare minimum, and when products that came along where they see the opportunity to make some good quick money, they'll just bring a lot of it in, right? The Christmas boxes being one of them, and Games Workshop has kind of clamped down a little bit on that. I want to say since the pandemic. For example, I couldn't just put 100 down for Dark Angel boxes.
No.
There were hard caps on things like that, right? And that's for good reason. They only make so many of them, and they want to be fair about who gets them, right? So every store has a chance to make a little bit of money off this really good product.
I mean, that's another put in the pro bucket, in my opinion, that I didn't mention is they try to allocate it. Not always, but I think they've been mostly fair. And when things were unfair, they took measures to. So with the caps, for example, look, Lionel Johnson came out, and he's probably been the hottest miniature in the last decade, to be honest. From it's coming and it's released and who wants one or whatever, that was such a anyway. And I think stores got three Lionel Johnsons. That's the max. It doesn't matter if you were a massive store or a little store.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting fairness there that I think is goes unnoticed. That they could have easily just been this is great. We made 5,000. We sold 5,000 or whatever, maybe 10, however many units, and great money in the bank account. But they do try to, especially during the pandemic, make efforts because they realize every store needs it. Because if the LGSCs die, then that also hurts their bottom line too, right? So they're trying to do their best, and I think they continue to do. Now the cap system has kind of been shifted off because they can keep up with most things. And I think what they do is they still continue to take. They found a medium where they take quantities each week, and they try as best as possible to fill them based on whatever.
Exactly.
So
now here's the thing: is that there is a very rigid. I don't want to get into the weeds here about like how you actually order, but this person claims they were on vacation. There is a very rigid ordering system, and if you don't place your order by a certain date every week, and you have to put it in like basically almost 3 weeks ahead of time. Yep. And if you don't talk to your rep.
Correct.
That week, those two things have to happen. Then you will miss out on stuff. It's call it unfair, whatever. It's just the way it is, and everybody knows that's the way it is. Like, so there, I think like in the 2 years they've been doing this, like there's one time where we didn't like follow the rules exactly to the T, and we missed out on one thing. It wasn't a huge thing, but I was still like, oh man, that's not going to happen again. Okay, like what do you have to change to make sure that doesn't happen again? So you make your you set your reminders in your calendar. You have like your thing. Like if I don't hear from my rep by like Tuesday at 3, like I'm like smashing emails in, and like this guy waited till a couple days before the release to start like really panicking and freaking out. Like that's way too late in the game. Even if a mistake had been made in the pipeline, that guy has zero power to fix that at that point because there's not any inventory to fix that with.
No.
Like all the stuff has already been allocated and it's moved on.
Yeah. So something, again, to enlighten people slightly, the way the system more or less works, again, I'm trying to do it as succinct as possible, is like, there's a rolling window of like 2-3 weeks ahead of time. And we don't really know. We know it's the same what you know. Like every Sunday they do their like coming out in 2 weeks or whatever. This goes on pre-order. So a couple days later, we basically submit what we think we want. That part I wish was a little longer. But the reason they want the extra lead up time is so that they can take all this, survey all these quantities, make sure they can fill them. If they're short, they have time to get more from the UK if that's possible. And
or they soft cap.
Or they soft cap. Maybe the store that asked for 100 only gets 80 or something like that. That's a thing, And then we follow along, and then the week it's supposed to come out. Like this week, there's some Lord of the Rings stuff or whatever. The way that works is like by. I don't know what it is. They have zones. They have regional zones in North America. Obviously, North America is an enormous place. It's about 3 or 4 time zones and thousands of miles between everything. So they look at like, okay, when does we're in Memphis, and how many days does it take to get to Ontario? How many days does it take to Vancouver? How many days does it take to get to LA or whatever? And that's how they stagger. So the things that take
and the important component of that week, right? So you've already submitted a few weeks before. They have your allotment basically waiting for you digitally with your trade rep. Yeah. But if you don't talk to your trade rep that week for your restock call or whatever,
they basically confirm that you're...
They don't push go on it. So it doesn't even get shipped out.
They still have to,
So there's like these call them whatever they are, but like you have to take these steps.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think you raised a good point that to be more, I guess, fair of this in general, this criticism or this breakdown of how do you deal with the Games Workshop is that, I would say I would put this in the bucket of the not so good. For a company of the resources it has, they don't have a simple website that only we log into, where we can do this. A lot of this should be digital like that. Like a lot of our local distributors have a simple web cart that I just like pop items in, and then. On a Monday, I hit go, and then maybe a sales rep calls to do another final check, and then that's it. They rip my credit card, and I get stuff a couple days later. But on the other side, Games Workshop does have, the logistically on a much different level. They have to distribute products in Oceania, in Australia region, in Asia, in Europe, in North America. Like it is a different beast. They unfortunately are using one of these Frankenstein duct taped together 5 or 6 major systems that are all somewhat talking to each other, and problems do occur. So they've done their best to try and come up with what Chris just explained to you. So anyway, I think there's a lot to say that this person who was upset with them, maybe if Warhammer was a bigger pillar in their business, or if they frankly put more energy towards it, wasn't just like an opportunistic account, which this is purely conjecture. We don't actually know, but that's what it sounds like. Then you're going to have these you're going to miss because you're not paying attention the whole time. I'm sure he doesn't miss on his MTG
Foundations order, yeah.
I'm sure he's like calling his guy, make sure I got those 200 boxes I wanted, right, or whatever he's ordering. That's a thing. There's another thing that isn't really touched on, and again, I'm not slandering or accusing them, but this has nothing to do with this person in particular. I have to disclaimer that so they don't come after me and go nuts. But here's the thing with all these distributors, doesn't matter what you're ordering, if you're ordering Magic or Warhammer or whatever. If you are an account that's in some sort of delinquency for some reason, because you don't pay on time or you don't follow the rules that they laid out, you are going to be on the bottom of the heap. Like, it's just naturally, that's it. They just go like, look, and that's not really different than dealing with like real customers on a micro level in your store. Like if someone constantly says, make sure I get a box of this, and then they always flake, and you order stuff in and they don't pay for them and they just don't come and pick it up, and you just, little by little, you're like, okay, next time they ask me for something, I'm either going to take money up front or I'm just going to politely tell them I don't have any or something, because it's just just how it is, right? It's kind of that's a thing in people's relationships. If you have a flaky friend, you're just going to stop asking them out to go do things because they never come. Right? So that doesn't stop, even in the business world.
Well, it reminds me too, just like back to deadlines. Like Games Workshop's no different than like any of these other companies. Like if you want a big allotment of a new Pokemon release, you have to put your numbers in like 2 to 3 months before that set even comes out.
Yep.
And there's no mercy at the end of that thing for you if you're like, actually wanted a lot more. The distributor's going to be like, that's cool, man. That's cool, but so does everybody else.
So does everybody.
Right? Like,
we've already committed this and that, and we're already shipping boxes. Like, it's over.
We can't run businesses based on feelings, unfortunately.
No.
And you know what? I'll give an example in our own history here of how we handled something that in a similar fashion. Like, for example, we used to carry Magic products years ago.
Yep.
And we made a similar decision, although we were a little less emotive about it, I would say. And essentially, the decision you're making, we weren't like, Magic is bad, we need to get rid of Magic. The product has failed us. Mm-hmm. The company's failed us that's selling it to us. We were just like, we made a decision about like, we're putting this much time into this. We've allocated this much resources. Could we spend our time more efficiently, effectively if we spent it on other things that we sell? And we decided yes. So we moved on from Magic at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the decision this guy's making. He's just doing it in a really fiery, emotive kind of way, I think.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's like, okay, that's fine, but like...
it's an interesting inverse of exactly what we did. Yeah. We were kind of like... We looked around and we're like, what are we? We're a miniature store. But we have some showcases, and we don't run enough Magic events. We don't get enough attendance, and so we're doing everything like so half-assed. That
the half-assed part is the thing that sucks,
So which means we're not ordering enough boxes, which means that like we can't offer like a better like competitive price. So then even things like in that era, this is like 6-7 years ago. Some modern Masters products, like you would say today, like, oh my God, that must just be so. You put it on the shelf and it goes, and you're like, no, it didn't. Like,
no, it didn't.
Those $400 whatever they were, like MSRP or $300 MSRP, like crazy Masters packs with, this is you're used to it now. Some of like the contemporary Magic players, but back not that long ago, people were like, this is crazy. Yeah, and
a regular card box was still around $100, right?
You could sell a booster box
for like 120, 150.
And if you were like a super volume, maybe $99 or something. Because the cost was like this cost was like $60 or $69, $72 CAD, and then you could make a small margin if you were like, because you ordered pallets if you're like one of the big players. Yeah, it was pretty wild. But anyway, so we just kind of were like, it was like that one day you're standing there and you're like, a transaction for some cards in the case took 20 minutes because of just the like, I need to like, how people are, they want to like look at the condition of cards and trade some cards in, and then you're like, meanwhile someone cheerfully walked in and grabbed a Combat Patrol off the shelf and some paints, and you're like, and had a nice 5-minute conversation, and they left, and you're like, oh my goodness, like
you're like, what am I doing?
One transaction took me 5 times as much time, and I made $3 profit, and the other one was like different. So we decided at the time,
and we could flip that around.
You can,
if you're a card store and you're set up to sell cards efficiently and well.
Yes.
that card transaction feels the same way that our miniatures transaction feels. And the miniature one, any hassle at all on that side, it go in your brain. You're like, oh, why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing
It eats up so much shelf space, and we barely move any. And then when we do, it's like,
I think like to your like when we were talking about our experience, I think you just realize like. And we were customers for years too. Like people want to buy stuff from a place that feels like they care about it. You know, like you want to go into it. Like people that buy cards, like kind of want to go into a card store.
Yeah,
you know, that cares about cards and looks like they sell cards, and vice versa for miniatures, right? And I think that's something that's kind of not talked about enough. It's like when we can't just like throw up anything on the shelf.
Except if it's Pokemon, then
Pokemon
absolutely you can't.
Is the exception to all the rules. Maybe One Piece right now. I get so many damn calls about One Piece. I'm starting to think like maybe we should have some One Piece.
Yeah, we probably should.
But yeah, like for the most part, you can't just throw anything on the shelf and have any legitimacy, right? I mean, just think about that. Like in real terms, if you went into a gas station, it looks funny when they have like a random thing for sale on those.
It's like if they have like PlayStation.
It looks desperate, you're like, what are we doing?
What
here?
are we doing here?
You know, it's maybe gas station's a bad example because they do sell a lot of wacky things, but I don't know. It's
no, I think it's still okay.
Yeah, there's something to just like
you walk into a place that you don't know what and a hobby card game store, they can come in different flavors. Usually the two main pillars are going to be it's usually TCGs and then or Warhammer or both. And if it's both, it's usually a mega store. You know, they usually they go deep on both. But as soon as you go,
but it is funny how one usually sort of kind of like inevitably like consumes the other in a way. You know, and it tends to be cards most of the time. Like just by the nature of like,
just easier.
It's way more work to do the cards, and I think that's what ends up like. You're like, oh, I'm putting all this work into this, so I really have to make this work. So you're like putting more effort into picking space for it. You're spending more money on it, and then it inevitably like just kind of takes up all your staff's time, and then you're just kind of a card store all of a sudden, right? Like I think it's hard to pull off both.
It is hard. Yeah. I think I've said this before, and I do, and this isn't like some me being like, oh, I'm elitist about it, but I think miniatures just require a different skill set. It is a little harder to just put the miniatures on the shelf, even if you have a lot of them. Yeah. Cards tend to, Pokemon, it's just a little more mainstream, so you tend to get more a guy walk in and they know exactly what's going on. The miniatures, it's so like, what the heck is, like, it's very common still to have someone be like, you do what with this? And then, and then the barrier to entry is different too. So I think on the card front, it's different. The labor's different. It's and you have to your expertise and stuff need to be a little different there for sure. Yeah.
Well, I think that's where like not to get too deep into this video, but like that's where I think the discounters kind of like come in, where they're like, if we put it out for cheap enough, then we can siphon some sales off of other stores that are kind of doing that work, right? Like this is where like having the Games Workshop in your city is kind of handy if you just want to sell it and not really do anything else, right? Because they can do all the like recruitment for you and then like you're just gonna but
so basically hypothetically, without knowing this person or anything at all, our professional consulting opinion is that they effed up or whatever they just did.
I think they just like I think they made a business decision. And I think they're trying to. This is often what happens with shops like this, right? Because your customers.
How come this didn't happen? Yes.
Why are you guys dropping Warhammer? He's saving face, right? I think there's a little bit of saving face there. It's a hassle to him. He doesn't want to deal with it anymore. Yes. So it's like we had a store. We're well into garbage time here, but we had a store in a city a couple cities away from us that made the claim that like they had to shut their gaming space down because everyone was stealing all the gaming mats. And like any second thought immediately you're like, well, how if I can take a 6x4 gaming mat out of your store without you noticing, maybe you have some problems beyond the gaming space, But I also thought it was kind of like a lie, just an excuse to shut her down. Because ultimately, like this is maybe a conversation for another video.
And theft is
people don't want a lot of shops don't want to deal with the gaming space.
To make a claim on shrinkage and theft, why you're not doing something is very you're just punishing most of your customers that don't do that, and B, this is a training setup, whatever issue.
It's a lack of accountability.
It's a lack of, yeah.
Oh, we're just saying out loud that we don't greet customers. We don't have any presence in the store.
The
whatsoever.
ones walking around doing
Nothing.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed our the first in the series, hopefully of many. If you guys have examples of shops dropping Warhammer or having problems, send it to us. We'd love to do this kind of video again.
Or if you find a store that's like gone deep on Trench Crusade, we'd love to hear about it.
That would be good. We're not supposed to talk about Trench Crusade anymore.
I know, that's why I put
he couldn't help himself.
So I did it for you.
A little spice at the end or whatever. Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you like these kind of videos, like and subscribe if you haven't already. And you can check us out on Patreon at Lords of War Games and Hobbies. Until next time, take care.
Thanks, bye.